Hey friends, so today I'm going to teach you how to make a Chape. It's a handle attachment. I'm using a 1.2mm goat skin here, which I'm going to bell skive down to 1mm. It's 1.4 at the moment, sorry. So I'm just going to split it down on my bell knife skiver to 1mm. I'm now going to back it with some bonded leather. This bonded leather is 0.8mm thick, just so that you've got it for reference. The reason we skive it down and then essentially build it back up thickness wise is just because goat is pretty much every leather, it has stretch to it. But bonded leather has no stretch, so you rebuild a bit of the thickness using the bonded leather, and then you remove all of the stretch using it in that way. I found these fantastic little sort of cookie cutter things on Amazon. They're fantastic. Just saves me from trying to cut that little shape out myself. So I put that in my press and I click those out. I'm now going to cut out the pattern. As you'll see here, I'm actually only cutting one side of it, and you'll see why later, but I'm going to cut out one side of it because I don't have a punch that's that particular shape. I'm gonna cut it out very slowly with my knife here. But if I had a like a belt end punch, I'd use that, and it would make my life much easier. Speed this bit up. You don't need to see it twice. Make sure that that's nice and tidy before I take the pattern off. So I've taken the pattern off, and you have to leave it oversized on the part that you're not cutting it straight away, and the reason for that will again become abundantly clear. We're gonna crease the turn and paint that area, because once you've glued it together you won't be able to get to that part, you won't be able to access it at all. So we're gonna crease just around the turn, because everything else is going to be trimmed later. So we're going to paint that, and I've put a nice crease around the main part as well, just whilst I was at it. Put a coat of edge paint on both sides of that, and then we'll let it dry in just a moment. You also want to put a coat of edge paint on the back of that turn, and that's because you may at some point catch a glimpse of the inside of that once you've put it all together, and if you don't put a bit of edge paint there, you will unfortunately see the bonded leather on the back. So we're now going to prick mark and punch through just the first side of leather. I'm using a number 9 pricking iron here. I think it's a number 9. It's 3mm. I'm now going to mark out where it's going to fold into the square on the other side of that cutout part, because I'm going to have to skive that around, and you're actually going to be skiving down to the leather, so you're going to be taking the bonded leather off the back, because once it's folded over you don't want the bonded leather to stick through the edge paint, and you want it to have a nice padded effect when you do it. So you're actually going to be skiving down just where the prick marks are outwards, like I'm showing here. but you want to leave the inside completely unskived, and the reason behind that is obviously you want a nice padded effect, and if you've skived any further in, you won't get that. It's now time to put some non-stretch tape down the middle of the shape, and that's because obviously if you're putting this onto a top handle bag, you're going to be putting quite a lot of tension through that throughout the life of the bag, and you don't want it to stretch, so you're going to put some tape down the middle. The one that I'm making is 15mm wide, 20mm wide, so you want to have the tape narrower than that so that you don't see the tape, obviously. I'm now cutting out a bonded leather shape for in the middle. It's the same shape as the pattern, just 5mm smaller all the way around. So once you've passed it through the D-ring of your handle or whatever it is that you're attaching it to, just cover the whole thing in glue. I can't remember what the one I'm using here is. I'm testing it out from Pro Italia Plus in the UK. But you want to cover it so that the whole thing is glued down, and then stick it in position. Obviously you can see that it's 5mm. It's 5mm smaller all the way around, but it goes exactly up to the turn. Now this is the important part. So when you're turning it over, when you're sticking it into position, you want to get it nice and tight around the D-ring. I've actually made it smaller for the purpose of the video, just so that you can see I've got a bit more movement whilst I show you. But you wanna really push it down, like curve it around, as you can see me doing here. You're not just squeezing it flat around the pattern. You're pushing it down around it so that you get a really nice curvature to the shape. As you can see there, you will see a bit of a sort of dipping on the underside because you're pushing it down around it. It's not flat. Making sure that it's nice and glued in position so that when I cut it off, it stays in position nicely. If I had a punch, it would be far faster to do that. And there we go. That's the famous Kelly handle attachment. Give it a nice sand so that once you put the edge paint on it, it looks really smooth and you don't have to do a million coats. And now it's time to crease on both sides. So I'm going to be creasing on the back side first, as you always crease on the back side, because if you crease on the front side first, and then you crease the back, and then you crease the front, you'll get a really weird shape. So you want to crease the back side, and then flip it over, and then crease the front side. Before making this, I forgot how nicely goat skin creases. It's really, really nice. Creasing the top side. Sorry, my arm's in the way. time to edge paint it. I'm using the same United's edge paint that I always use. I've mixed up a specific brown for this. It's not one that I bought, I made it just because I like it. If you want to learn more about how to edge paint, I've got a video specifically on that on my channel, so you can go and watch that if you like. And now it's time to stitch it on. So I'm going to be doing 3 back stitches as I always do, but it's really important to do those 3 when you're doing a handle attachment, just because there's a lot of tension that goes through those first 3 stitches, so you want them to be nice and secure. And then obviously stitching the rest of that as you normally would stitch anything. I'm using a lovely gold thread on this just so you can see it more clearly in the video. The stitch on at the corner, as you can see there, I'm using a roundel for it, and that's just because you get a nice angle. When you're stitching the end down, you want it to be as tucked into the corner as you can get it, just so it doesn't slide off over time. And then obviously this is going to be the inside of the bag, so it doesn't matter too much how you finish it, but I'm going to put a couple of knots in and then just tap it down. Once you've tapped it, you're going to re-crease it, but this is actually a cold crease. The creasing iron that I'm using is not hot on this, and that's just because you don't need it to be. You're just reminding the leather to be in that position, because obviously you creased it before you stitched it, so you sort of moved the leather out of position, but you're just reminding it how to be in that crease. And there we go, we're all done, and now you can make a lovely handbag attachment. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe.